Why is the Twin Cities market continuing to see steady growth and appreciation while the rest of the country is flat or declining? We have Sharry Schmid with us today, the CEO of Edina Realty. Congratulations on that beautiful new role, Sharry. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to have Sharry here today. We have a lot to talk about because the market has been interesting as it relates to what's going on in the media. And I don't know that those messages are necessarily positive ones right now, and I'd love to share with our viewers what your take is. So share, please.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad to have the opportunity because I also see those headlines in the news media and get frustrated because what's happening and from a national perspective in terms of real estate doesn't necessarily equate to what's happening here in our local market. And in terms of why our market is doing better than what we're maybe seeing in other parts of the country, there's a few factors that play into it. A big one is that we didn't see the big swing during COVID. In other words, we didn't see as much as some of the other areas that you're hearing about right now that are either flatlining or declining. They had a much more robust uptick during COVID where we didn't, and which is a good thing.
It is.
We saw really great appreciation.
We really did.
And a really strong market, but not quite to that extreme. So now we're really more in a balanced, very healthy market.
Yes, I love the balanced market. It's such a good place to be. And it's, when you look at what's happened over the last 2 decades, one of my favorite markets we've been in. And I think we've seen such an incredible uptick from not only the national perspective with the relocation piece of it, but what's going on locally. I think the biggest challenge is just getting people to be confident in selling their home because they're not sure where to go because of the age group. So let's circle back to what you're seeing analytically in terms of our local economy and what we are hearing from the national media.
Well, there again, I think, as we look at locally and what's happening with our, key economic factors in terms of unemployment, we historically always perform a little bit better than the national average in the Twin Cities metro area. Along with that, we've got a diverse range of employers, which also helps from the standpoint of, driving that overall economic health and strength. Another big piece, and this was recently reported on, is that in Minnesota, we've got the highest home ownership rate for those under 35.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's, greater than 50%, and you don't get that throughout the country. So what it says and what, that tells us is that younger, that 35 and under are looking at Minnesota, looking at the Twin Cities metro area, and making that move here and from out of, which plays into your relocation and from out of state because they see affordability as a component. They see the health of our economy and strong jobs.
Well, and it's such a beautiful city to live in. You get these driving messages that are very predominantly driven, I think, by ratings and rankings, when in fact, when you actually experience this beautiful city and all that it has to offer, the natural resources, the lakes, the physicality of it, the amazing food scene we have, it's such an incredible lifestyle, state and city. I am not surprised the young people want to come here. That's why we're ranked #1 now. So affordability-wise, what do you think the caveat is there? Why are we more affordable? People talk about taxes. They talk about tax haven. They talk about availability. Where do you see in our communities and in our state where we're able to level up differently than other parts of the country?
I think, again, too, when you compare it, because, on average, and again, depending on, neighborhood specific, some of the average sale prices within our, Twin Cities market area are running just shy of $400,000, which that's still a lot of money.
That's still very affordable, though, when you consider.
It's a lot of money, but it is affordable when you're considering and you're comparing to other major market areas. And part of that that all has to do with supply and demand. So again, when you're in certain metro and market areas and there isn't as much inventory available, or you have larger influx of buyers coming in at any given point in time. And again, COVID's a great example of that. When you have more demand than you do supply, that's going to drive prices up.
It is going to drive prices up. I do think we're in a unique position as a company in our city because of the mere size and the number. 50% of the market is empty nesting right now, baby boomers. And they want to make a life change, but they're not really sure what that looks like. So when you've got 60% of the company that's been in the industry for 20 years or longer and can speak that truth and help navigate that narrative, along with the fact that we're able to, shall we say, create the market and create availability, it allows us the opportunity to marry buyers and sellers together in a unique way that many brokers, both locally and nationally, cannot. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, with the size, like you said, the size of our organization and the amount of professionals and realtors that we have, and given, their tenure in the industry, it gives them the opportunity to network and talk with a lot of buyers and sellers who are out there, and with that, knowing what's going to be coming. So a lot of times when we're talking internally and among ourselves as professionals, we realize, they've got a whole client base of people that might not be ready right now, but they're going to be ready in the next coming months.
Right.
So we're capturing all of that.
We are.
And that's a big piece, and we've been doing that for a long time.
Long time.
So our group is used to, okay, not ready yet, but they're going to be ready. So here's the system, and here's the way that we network, and that gets done internally for us. And you're right, because of our size, because of the amount of tenure for the professionals that we work with, there's a lot of inventory that we can help bring those buyers and sellers together with.
I love that piece of this company so much, the power of the networking and the ability to match humans in homes in a way that takes the stress out of the equation, and you're really able to cherry pick and match make in such a unique way. It's by far the most powerful part of our organization, and we work so well. It's like a well-woven blanket, I call it. So tell me about rates. What are your thoughts, and how do you future cast what's happening? I know you can in 2026. Tell us your thoughts.
So with interest rates, it's always the magic ball question of what's going to happen. And right now they're hovering in the low sixes. And I think by, all estimations and the major outlets that we follow, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ivy Zelman, Zelman and Associates, also with NAR, different leaders in this space that talk about it. That range is anywhere from high fives to low sixes, barring something unforeseen in the marketplace that nobody would anticipate. I think rates will stay steady. Another interesting piece, Cari Ann, that I don't think a lot of people understand right now is, we've had historically low interest rates for a really long time. By that, I'm referring to interest rates that start with a 3 and a 4.
Yeah.
And so there was this talk for a long time about being rate stuck. But interestingly enough, we now have as many people that start with a 6 as we do that start with a 3. So every year that we pass where we have interest rates in that 6% range,
which is normal,
more and more people, more and more people come out of that 3% interest rate. And that's going to start moving the market more as well, because more inventory will come on. People now have accepted that this is a normal interest rate. It's a historically really good interest rate, being in the sixes. And with that, life happens. Life happens. And
life happens. Right? Yeah, and we just did a piece on that. Going to get married. Unfortunately, there's going to be divorce.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that happen in life, and has nothing to do with the rate.
Correct.
Nothing at all.
No.
People get caught up in this narrative, but functionally, those that run in the trenches, I call it, the work we're doing every single day, functionally, people have lives and they have to keep living them. And you need to have a beautiful home to live in. Socioeconomically, never profiling that, being able to create the best and most beautiful space possible wherever you're at, whatever stage in life you're at. That's our speak in our narrative, and we're passionate about it. So now we jump from rates to what are your thoughts, generally speaking, because we did have a growth year as a company and in our market. Unlike you're seeing a lot, the word frozen apparently out there quite a lot. In other parts of the country, they call the market's paralyzed, the market's frozen. What is your take on that?
I do think we'll continue to see, it won't be a huge swing, but I think we'll continue to see that growth. And what I mean by that is there's a little more inventory that's coming on. And with that, just something to be aware of if you're looking at selling times are still really good in terms of number of days on market. It's not going to be what you heard back in 20 and 21, and that's okay. But with that, more inventory coming on, which gives buyers more opportunity. And overall, we see a slight uptick in terms of sales that will occur in our area for next year.
Yeah.
Very positive.
Very positive.
Very favorable outlook that we see 2026, again, for our market area based on all the different factors that we've alluded to.
So what's your take on development and new construction right now? Sharry actually has a deep-seated history in this in our city. So tell us what you're seeing in terms of growth on that front.
Yeah, and in terms of new construction, that's very much kind of hyper-local, depending on municipality, what's available for lot and lands and for the development that way. One thing that builders continue to look at is, their costs, what will happen, a lot of the tariff talk.
Yep.
And, components of tariffs, that's already been built in.
Yeah, it
to some
has.
of their construction costs. So again, that's really going to go community by community.
I agree.
In terms of what's available for lot and land.
I think I'm seeing a lot more custom work. We're not seeing as much spec work right now, meaning the builders are really working with you on a one-to-one case scenario, and a lot of that inventory is not in the MLS. So it does require some knowledge and some relationship building with the builder community to track down those opportunities. They're not necessarily installed.
Yep.
Yeah. So any little secret tips for the community right now as it relates to buying, whether it's locally or nationally? And do you want to talk about Florida a little bit?
Yeah. So my biggest tip, and I tell this all the time when people are talking to me, depending on what it is they're looking for, what their needs are, it's easy for all of us to go to the phone and the internet. We were talking about that before we started our podcast, but I would tell you nothing can replace having that trusted advisor, that trusted realtor to guide you through the process and to give you the nuts and bolts of what's happening specifically in the area that you're looking at, the needs that you have, because everybody's needs are a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a house, but there's so much more that goes into looking for that. Including, those of you who are, potentially interested in having a second home in our Florida market. We, a few years ago, set up a small office in our Naples market.
So exciting.
But with that, it has really taken off for us. It's been a great opportunity to service everyone who's going back and forth between our Minnesota and Southwest Florida market.
It's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity because those that are not from this area, Minnesotans don't leave Minnesota, do they, Sharry?
No.
They stay here. We're very rooted here. However, we are cold this time of year and we all need a little break. And Florida's been a fabulous, fabulous place to have an office. I know that 55% of our portfolio of humans that we work with are empty nesting, baby booming, and will want a lease or a purchase at some point in the next 1 to 10 years, which was one of the number one reasons we wanted to play in that market, and it's so much fun. We've got a great point of contact and a great team down there. So we've got a wonderful connection for those of you that are interested in exploring Florida. Anything else to share?
Overall, like I said, really positive outlook for us for 2026.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we saw and really are seeing the signs of coming out of kind of that trough. What I mean by that is in 2022, we watched interest rates go up, and with that whole COVID craze came to an end. And so when something like that happens in any market, but in the real estate market, you sort of see things kind of stall out a bit until people find that equilibrium.
They have to find their balance.
We saw that balance here this last year.
We did.
And now we'll start to see some uptick for 2026.
Yeah, with much confidence. I'm very excited about what we have going on here in the Twin Cities. And for those of you that haven't met Sharry Schmid, check out her deets because Sharry speaks all over the country. An amazing knowledge broker, absolutely fabulous human being. Thank you so much, Sharry. for spending time with us today. I know how busy you are, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.